Why does it always feel like the left and the right can never find middle ground? Just a question. Just a question I'm throwing out there. Let's talk about it. But before we do, this is your reminder to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to follow me on any of my other social medias, the link for that is down below. I usually post short form content on those platforms if that is something that you are interested in. And without any further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so it seems more and more to me like there's just this inability for the left and the right to converse about any topic whatsoever, and it feels very much like we are losing sight of the fact that it's not the left versus the right, it is us versus them, us versus the elites, the deep state. The people who are in power of this country and the world are the ones that are sowing this division. And as somebody who speaks a lot about the micro cultural issues, I think it's important that we also take a step back every once in a while and remember the macro issue as well. Because while the micro does matter, issues that affect our day-to-day, just from the last couple of weeks, we talked about Obergefell. We even talked about something as stupid as Cracker Barrel rebranding, because in our day-to-day lives, it does matter that the places we go have no personality and no character and no soul. That is something that matters. At least it does to me. But not to get derailed, those things do matter. But also it's really important to remember that the problem here is the deep state, right? And I can completely recognize that there are people and factions of the right who are in a cult, okay? Obviously, a dichotomy of the left and the right doesn't exist unless there are cultish aspects on both of those ends on the most extreme side. However, it does feel far more pervasive on the left. The right is far more likely to accept or take in people who have various beliefs on different things than the left. The left, you truly do have to adhere to every single party line, or else you are going to be ousted as a far right extremist. I mean, you look at Joe Rogan, RFK Jr., all of these people who are not conservatives, but are labeled as far right extremists by the left because the left is that and is in fact that extreme. And truly the core issue here is the right most of the time is willing and able to hear and have a conversation, whereas the people on the left view the people on the right as literally subhuman. They do not think that anyone on the right has a sympathetic or rational reason for believing the things that they believe. They just instead assume that they are evil people. And why would you have a conversation with somebody who is inherently evil? And it's a huge roadblock, don't you think? And I really don't think that it is solely what I'm feeling on the ground. Studies have shown that liberals tend to feel significantly less empathy towards their political counterparts than conservatives do. Leftists refuse to acknowledge that conservatives think that their approach is the sympathetic one. And I feel like until we can correct that, I don't know how we move forward. I don't know how we can expect somebody who sincerely believes that you have the beliefs that you have because you are filled with hatred or homophobia or bigotry or any of these words that get thrown around. If somebody truly believes that, and they do, how can we expect them to come to the table and have a conversation? You know, because, for example, I can see how from a leftist perspective, safe shooting sites or safe injection sites are the sympathetic approach, because the alternative is a person's going to do it anyways, and they're going to do it with dirty needles, and they're going to get sick, okay? It's not safe. So they give them a safe space to do it, and they think that that's sympathetic. I disagree. I don't think that they're evil for thinking that. I think they're just wrong. Personally, I think that the correct approach would be to offer some sort of rehabilitation instead of maybe giving them the drugs for free, trying to help them get off of the drugs, trying to help reintegrate them into society, maybe give them some sort of community service work to help pay for, in some roundabout way, for the rehab. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I think that something along those lines would be far more sympathetic than just giving them a place to do their drugs safely. But the unfortunate thing is that the left tends to misrepresent the conservative approach to that and just say you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, don't you? And that's not the point. The point is never that you don't need help. People sometimes need help. We just disagree on what that help is. The point here, I think the main idea here is that the left refuses to give anyone on the right the benefit of the doubt. We often hear people on the left say that they could never be friends with a Trump supporter, but they are unwilling to listen and try and understand where that person's morals might be based. We can disagree. And this, of course, applies to people on the right as well. Like I said at the beginning of this video, any side of a political argument is going to have their version of the extreme end of that. I just think that this is more prevalent on the left. It's more of an issue on the left. And until we find a way to resolve that, I do not know how we move forward. I don't know how we take on the bigger problems like government corruption or the deep state. I don't know how we take on those problems unless we come to terms with the fact that it's not left versus right. A good litmus test that I always give myself is when someone says something or something happens, I always ask myself, is this malice or is this stupidity? And I can almost always attribute stupidity to a normal person. I almost only get into malice territory when it comes to government officials, because these are the people in charge. These are the people who are creating these issues. You know, and there's also the side of this where just because it is the government elites creating these issues to sow the division does not mean that these issues aren't real and aren't happening. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword of you want to engage with these things, with these micro issues on the ground because they do matter and they do affect our day-to-day lives, but you also don't want to lose sight of the fact that that's not the main issue here. And that's something that I'm personally trying to work on. That is over the last 9-10 months, that is something that I have really been working through in my own life of just, does this really matter? And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just a fun story that I want to talk about, and that's okay too. If we were able to look at an issue such as transgender women in biological women's prisons. Let's just take a controversial one because that one's going to heat a lot of people and kind of trigger that leftist response of calling you a transphobe for even wanting to bring it up. But it's a real issue that needs to be talked about and debated. And if somebody on the left would just be willing to hear and understand where the other side is coming from, that would go a long way. On the flip side, if we want to take another hot issue, if somebody wanted to talk about how potentially Israel is influencing our government officials and the decisions that they are making, that's going to trigger someone on the right, isn't it? But maybe if they would just calm down and listen, that would also go a long way. That would also go a long way, wouldn't it? I don't know, you guys. What do you think? Because from where I'm sitting, from where I see it, I know that we need to be able to and be better at having conversations. But it seems like only one side is willing to do that, and it doesn't even seem like that side is fully willing to do it. So it's crazy times. Really, yeah, that's fun. Love that for us. But let me know what you think down below. Do you think that this is an issue more on the right? Do you think it's an issue more on the left? Do you think that it's an issue at all? Let me know. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.